It's a great day to be a Coyote. Welcome, Coyote Nation, to another episode of Back the Pack Podcast, where we are going to be bringing you all your favorite games, memories, and of course, discussion with our fellow Coyotes. As a disclaimer, we have no affiliation to the University of South Dakota. This is a podcast ran by fans, for fans. The ideas and comments do not represent the university. Our opinions are our own. Be sure to find us on Twitter at BackThePackSD and join the USD Coyote Fans Nation page on Facebook. Last but not least, donate to the new Yote Fund at www.goyotes.com. That being said, let's talk some Coyote football.
Well, that was a new twist, Mitch. Are you just showing off for
Hey, you noticed
athletic
it.
director?
You noticed it. Man, I figure we better stop calling it the Howling Pack. It's kind of kind of a thing in the past at this point, but how are you fellas doing?
Doing well.
Doing great.
I'm doing good. It's a fun time. You know, I never thought the podcast would get to this kind of point where we'd be discussing some major news with the athletic director, but excited to have you, John.
Yes,
Excited to be here.
Welcome in, John.
Quite a summer. Appreciate it.
Well, you have been the man of the hour, the man of the week. It's been quite a deal. We're going to cover all that tonight. But before we jump in real quick, I want to bring in a Yote fan here. He was the first one to comment on our feed today at 3:56 p.m. He was already knocking on our door on YouTube. So, Yote fan, what up? We know you're in here. And then we've got Ray as well. He's always in here. Got our two diehards. So, guys, if you think of any questions, start thinking of them and throw them in the chat. We'll get them answered here as we go. And anybody else tuning in live, we've got 7 or so already here. So don't be afraid to jump in the comments. This is a chance to get a one-on-one with our athletic director. So thank you for tuning in and get your comments in.
And before we go too far, I am going to say this as an open invite to everybody that listens and follows along with us, but especially to Yote fan and Ray. You're invited to tailgate every game, every home game, and we're going to have one beer for you, just chilled on the ice, ready to go. You guys have been probably the most loyal people I could imagine for this podcast, so we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, but they're not here to hear about tailgate. They're here to hear about the house settlement.
Yes, and before we do that, guys, real quick, we have to throw this out there because June is flying by. June 30th, lock in your Yote Fund level. So if you want to get those benefits, and for those of you that were in the Howling Pack and now the new Yote Fund, you want to keep that going, make sure you lock that in by June 30th. And then same thing for season tickets. You've got football and volleyball. Basketball is also available, but make sure you renew those by June 30th to keep your same seat. Otherwise, they do open up to the general public. So make sure to do those here by the end of June. All right.
Right off, huh?
Yeah, right off the bat, John. We have to mention this. I said it was quite a week for you, and especially the last couple of days. So first off, your tweet in response to Sam Hers, you quote tweeted it, and that was the application basically being denied to Sac State from the committee. And everybody knows that follows us knows that he called everybody in the FCS and JV programs compared to the varsity level. And so you quote tweeted this, and you've received 288 likes. And Jake said on the show here before we went live, he said you found a way to unite Bunny and Coyote fans in one tweet.
I think that's probably pretty accurate. Yeah. I mean, I guess not only the statement, but then really no retraction or correction of it. I think just overall, I mean, there are steps to things and what their goals are for their institution. That's great. But, I think about the schools, what we're trying to accomplish here. Number one, how far we've come, how hard we've worked in the 15 years in Division I to get where we are, and we're still not where we want to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so to call programs obviously our own, but North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State, Montana, and so many others, Tarleton. I mean, that's just a poor choice of words at best, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I think we take a lot of pride in what we do, and to call out a whole level that way was just not good. And again, just we've had a lot of time. There's been no adjustment of that. And I guess if you're going to make your statements and stand on it and own it, I can respect that. But then, I'm going to throw a jab when it's, I mean, candidly, I'm smart ass. Like, it can't be that surprising.
Right.
And then he did what he did, and then obviously tried to delete it. But
he deleted his reply quick, by the way. He threw up we'd put up 50 on you guys. Good luck with your conference, and he deleted that real quick. But of course, the internet, with the internet nowadays, nothing's ever deleted for real. There were some quick screen captures that took care of that, and it was quite hilarious. So we had a great laugh about this. And I love Zach McKinnell. He's part of the FCS Blue Bloods. He tweeted that and said, deleted the tweet. He said South Dakota currently leads 2-0.
Yeah, it's it just, again, I think, and I just like to engage with our fans, right? I'm not a big social media guy. I have less than 1,000 followers. I'm not like trying to go up a brand and do anything with it, but I do like to have a little bit of fun. I've had a couple coaches call me out for not being as engaged, and I don't like social media in general for this type of reason, right?
Right.
Having said that, I've definitely typed in some things and deleted them before. But I've deleted them before I push send, and so I mean, it was meant, honestly, for me, just kind of a lighthearted haha to our fans. It wasn't anything I thought about. I fell asleep and woke up to 10, 12 missed phone calls, 50 texts, and woke up and went through it and just started laughing, to be honest with you. So everyone was asking me if I was going to say something else, and I was like, I don't think I need to. I think everyone else is speaking for me now. So,
Yep.
I said what I said. I thought it was funny and clever. I'm not apologizing for it.
No.
So to put this in perspective real quick, from our fan account, which, we're on there tweeting every day, we're getting like 45,000 impressions a month. You got 94,000 impressions on this one tweet.
Yeah, it's probably more than I've had in the rest of my life on Twitter. So, I mean, I've had Twitter like 3 or 4 different times and deleted it 3 or 4 different times. So.
Oh man, it's good stuff. And you know what? It's the perfect time for this, right, guys? Because it's the off season. So if you're going to talk some smack, this is the prime time to do it because everybody's feeling good about their teams and themselves, their schools, and everything. So you see a lot more smack talk in the off season really than before the games.
Yeah. I mean, there's just Justin Sell, Leon at Montana State, Matt and Bill up in the North Dakota schools. We talk a lot, and they've been so good to me, even more than I think I deserve. But the thing they talk about, hey, there are steps to this, right? And there are, and I just thought about that kind of when that tweet went out a little bit. So, but yeah, I wasn't expecting this reaction.
I will say it was great. I think the easiest way to sum it up is this is the second time I've seen Sac State try to pick a fight and not back it up and ran away both times. So it was a lot of fun. You had definitely our group chat buzzing and a few others that I saw too. So this is what I meant when talking about it. This was a lot of fun. I know the fans really enjoyed seeing you lay the smack down a little bit on a guy that couldn't shut his mouth.
Yeah. I'll always be good for one of those every now and then.
I was gonna say that's exactly what I think every football fan has Twitter for, is the stuff like this. I got a good chuckle out of it. It was good, especially if you've been following FCS football, right? That was a pretty good one as well. So.
I appreciate it. I mean, I did say it in my opening press conference, right? Like I'm the guy in the room when everyone's thinking it. I'm the guy that says it. So I've always has been and always will be. So
love it. All right, we're 10 minutes in here. We'll move on. We're gonna get to the meat and potatoes here. So a rather different tweet from you. This was on Friday the 13th, so rewind a few days here, but basically just telling Coyote fans, hey, we're opting in, and there's going to be a bunch of information coming. So we saw that tweet from you. An email also went out to Coyote Nation, and so I'm not going to read the whole email, but it basically just says, hey, we're opting in. There's this information. Go find it. You also attach the Q&A from the from the NCAA, which is a quite long document. But yeah, so that email's out there. So for fans, check your emails. And then I also want to throw a reference to this video too, because this video came out on Tuesday, I think, with your sit down with John Thayer, and it already has like 1,000 views. And so just want to direct fans to YouTube, to the South Dakota Coyotes page on YouTube. And this is the most recent post or release there on YouTube under their account. So you should easily be able to find it. But a ton of good information in here. You guys go through a lot of stuff around the settlement and a lot of questions that I know John gathered from fans and whatnot. So a lot of this has already been answered. So that's a great place for Coyote fans to go get some information, and I think maybe we'll probably double up on a few of those here tonight, but maybe touch on some other stuff that wasn't covered in there too. But yeah, so check that out, please, because that is a great piece of information there for Coyote Nation. And Jake and Grant, have you guys watched this yet?
I haven't got a chance to, just because work has been nuts, and I also wanted to save it, so if I did ask the question a second time, I feel okay, and
there you go.
There you go. Repeating something.
You don't want to cheat off anybody's homework, I guess, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of.
Right.
I did enough of that in college.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I watched a little bit of it. Same thing. I got interrupted while I was listening to the first half of it, so I have to go back and grab the last 20 minutes of it. But like you said, John always does it well. John do a great job in that, especially for something that's so complex and so new to so many fans. I guess maybe that's a good place to start, right? Is kind of maybe the 10,000-foot view a little bit, John, because I know a lot of us who are close to it and are in it, on Twitter and getting the details, almost weekly. Maybe we know a little bit more, but maybe for like a more novice fan, and even like maybe not in tune with all the nuances of NCAA in general, maybe just walk through that at a high level.
Just the house settlement, what it is?
Yes, you have the settlement specifically, yeah.
So, yeah, I think high level, essentially there was a former student athlete, a swimmer at Arizona State that brought a lawsuit several years ago. His last name was House, right? You can look it up. So it just carried that name. But ultimately, the main thing about it all was for the ability for student athletes to receive compensation directly from the school. So for their service, pay to play, right? Everything that we've kind of been talking about and avoiding as a term. And so the settlement going through allows for that. Now we can have direct revenue sharing contracts with the student athletes between the university and the student athletes themselves. Obviously, that was never allowed before. It was scholarship based everything, and then if you had a third party collective external, that's how you could go above and beyond scholarship, and so that's a big part of it. Another part of it is there was the roster limits and kind of doing away with head count sports and equivalent sports. Everything basically just went to roster limits, and then you can max out your scholarships within those roster numbers. And so if the scholarship limit for football is now 105, and we could technically go to 105 scholarships now. Previously, it was at 63. A sport like basketball, a scholarship had to be all or nothing. It's a head count sport. That's no longer gone. So Eric and Carrie can both do a half, or whatever. They can split all of that up. So just because we can directly share revenue with our student athletes doesn't necessarily mean we're going to. The cap of that is 20.5 million. That's a national cap. So we can go all the way up to that. Just for everyone's perspective, our budget's about 25 million. So we're going nowhere near that cap anytime soon. But it creates a lot more freedom for all of our sports and all of our coaches. And even ones that aren't fully funded, even within their scholarship limit, they could technically use their scholarships and be more creative. They could directly revenue share with a track athlete and use their scholarship equivalents in their budget, to do so. So if you had 15 scholarships and you only wanted to scholarship 12 kids, and you could have 10 full rides and 2 kids, you're paying a little extra. But football, you'll see a lot different approach, right? I think Travis has a plan to get more guys on scholarships. So even in football, it doesn't mean we're going to be paying a bunch of people. I think most of our coaches will use it for retention and other things like that. But the crux of what the House settlement really does is it allows you to directly revenue share with student athletes, and then it sets roster limits, and all the scholarship limits are only limited within those rosters. Those are the 2 biggest things.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the NIL stuff too. So the NIL is still a thing, and there still is a third-party NIL, but there's some new rules around that, correct? With the NIL Go and the whole Deloitte kind of approval process.
Yeah, so in this, there's been the new CSC is called, the College Sports Commission has been established, and the Autonomy 4 conferences have worked with the new CSC to establish a platform called NIL Go, actually created by Deloitte. And anything that's NIL now, and this is supposed to help regulate the market a little bit. And I think it will to some extent. It's certainly not going to, bring it back down to I don't know what normal is anymore, but it's not going to, it's not going to just eliminate it all, but it's going to say that an NIL deal needs to be a true name, image, and likeness deal. And so it needs to be a deal with a business. If it's a $100,000 deal, there needs to be $100,000 worth of value on that student athlete, the service they're providing to that business through appearances, commercials, whatever it would be. And, to me, I think that's a good thing. I don't know why that's such a problem, other than people acknowledging what we've all known, but no one would say it out loud, right? That,
Yep.
that everyone is just throwing money into this thing. And so hopefully it brings some regulation back into it. And then, for the most part, again, eliminating Autonomy 4 schools, and believe me, not every Autonomy 4 school even can easily go to the 20.5 million. And I mean, there just aren't, there's probably 10 schools in the country that can truly afford this, and everybody else. And the rest of us then are all trying to kind of scramble and figure out how to use these things to our advantage. But I do think the NIL stuff through NIL Go is a good thing. I worry about how they're able to monitor, control, and I certainly will be curious if they actually hold people accountable to it. And if, what does accountability look like? Is it suspension? Is it financial? Is it to the kid, to the school, to both? I think those will be the interesting things to find out.
And I want to touch on that too with the NIL and the adjustments that they've made. This is now through the school, the NIL donation can go through, correct?
Yeah. So now in the direct revenue sharing, I mean, so there's kind of 2 buckets, but yes, they both can go through the school. So we have not officially shut down the Pride of the Western Plain, but we fully expect to do that. We're just really making sure we have everything kind of in order, and we have till the end of the month to do that. But I would tell everyone, if you have been donating, stop that immediately and start giving to the Yoke Fund, or just wait to make sure. But we're 99% there. So yeah, through the school, kind of like we always have. I mean, we help student athletes work NIL deals. We've had student athletes on NIL deals here for, at least a couple years now. And so you have that bucket that's a service back to a business. And then, and those all have to go through NIL Go. Then you have the direct revenue share, which is not, and that's not subject to the same type of review nor do they have to provide a service other than, whatever the agreement is between the student athlete and the school. So yeah, you have those two buckets, but they're essentially both under. And then I think it is important for donors to know, you can't put a gift agreement in to say, here, I want you to pay this player, right, with this donation. That then becomes NIL, right? And it's a different process. So you could do it, but then there'd have to be a business purpose, all of the same kind of stuff we've been used to. But what you can do, right, we can directly share our revenue. The allowable revenue for that is ticketing, concessions, whatever we generate, parking, all these different things. And hopefully that helps draw some correlation into, a lot of the changes that we made above and beyond just being really outdated with our setup and our structure and our prices. And so those are the revenues we can share, but then the fundraising money coming in can obviously help replace that. So the more we have from the fundraising bucket to pull into that, then we can do that. But I would tell our fans, and I touched on this a little bit more, football, for example, we have 63 scholarships that we've had since we've gone Division I. And I don't know if we immediately went to 63 or if we worked our way to it. We're not getting anything from the institution for this. In fact, very proudly, our budget request from the institution is 400,000, 400 and something thousand less next year than it was this year. And that's been a hard process to get there. But we've done a lot of good work and more revenues coming in. And so I feel really good about where we're at and better about where we're going. And so I just think that's an important thing for people to understand. Above that too is, track, football, tennis, some of these other things, no matter what it is, most of the additional money is going to come into expanding scholarships, right? Because now you can have more kids on scholarships. You have your roster limits. And so, for those that are really hesitant to give because they just don't feel good about paying players stuff, most of our money, at least in the early going, is not going to be for that. Now, I will say for basketball, it'll be different, right? Basketball's market is high, and we've been funding on the women's side 15 scholarships since we started in Division I. On the men's side, 13. We can now go to 15 on the men's side, and we will over a year or two to get there. But if you're not, $250,000, $500,000 and beyond above the scholarship right now, you're just not in the space of competing.
Yeah. And so I want to reiterate to that too. You mentioned buying your seat, the parking passes. That basically you're saying filling the dome means so much more than just making it a loud, tough environment.
100%. And I tell people all the time, if your passion is tennis, there are really two things you can do to support tennis. You can donate to tennis, or you can buy tickets to football, basketball, and volleyball games, right? I mean, because we don't take that money. That isn't controlled by the football program, right? That's controlled by the department. That comes back in and that gets scattered out. And so those are the ways to impact all of our programs, not just the ones that you're watching. That's also why it's so critical to not just play the sports, but you have to be good. Because we could have the best marketing setup in the world, the best sound system, the best video board. If we're 6-6 in football, that's not what people go to watch anymore. And so we're very serious and very strategically setting ourselves up to be competitive, sustain success, competing for championships in the Missouri Valley Football Conference and nationally. And that's our goal. And basketball, obviously, Leanne's built a dynasty, and we're going to continue that with her and keep pushing that. And both basketball programs, I feel great about the trajectory of, and I feel great about Carrie and Eric as well.
Yeah.
So just to recap kind of where we're at here. So it sounds like, John, you've kind of basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of shying fans away from the third party NIL. Let's push those fans over to the Yote Fund. Let's create one big one bigger pie within the university, because that money's going to be, spread over, and supporting all the sports. Obviously, football is the driver, but like you said, you just mentioned this, the money being spread over all the sports and supporting all the athletes and more scholarships across the board. And so I just want to kind of make sure that that's the call out for fans, and that's kind of what I gathered through watching your release with John Thayer, that sit down, and then I think he just nailed it with the the more support, drive the revenue, more scholarships, chase championships, repeat. That's kind of what I tweeted out earlier this week, and I think that's the formula if we really simplify it, right?
Yeah, if I didn't ramble so much, that'd be a great way to kind of shorten it and say that, yeah, it's but yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple. So I would tell everyone immediately to stop their giving to the third party collective. I think we've been in communication with that group pretty intentionally, and then yeah, it's just kind of grow the pot. It's similar to kind of what we've been doing all these years, right? It's just another bucket we're pulling in, and this is exactly why we established the Yote Fund. And the Howling Pack still exists. It's just a fund under the Yote Fund, and everything's counting now. And so into your points and all of that, but this is exactly why we went to kind of an all-encompassing thing for us internally. Obviously, from a donor-facing standpoint, it was to better represent the investment and the support people are giving in total with tickets and everything counts. And if you're a $10,000 a year person, it doesn't matter hugely to us if it's through tickets or donations. It matters in your tax write-off, but $10,000 is $10,000, and we want to recognize that for each and every donor.
Yeah, and that's another good call out, right? The tax write-off is important, and I know you had mentioned before that there were some fans hesitant to give to the third-party NIL, collective that was created because there was no tax write-off there. You can't have those benefits with that setup, and so if you donate directly to the Yote Fund, here comes all those benefits, including the tax write-off.
That's exactly right. And so, we had conversations with donors that, we had donors given 5-10 grand a year. We had one actually ready to start doing six figures next year. And now that person doesn't need to worry about the tax write-off, but asking someone to give 25, 20, 25, 50, $100,000 or more into something you can't write off. That's different than a couple $100 or a couple thousand. And so so those people are certainly pretty happy, as are we, and we've seen immediate response from that. Pretty significant.
And real quick before we move on I want to reiterate to anybody that is following along with us live, feel free to throw some questions in the chat too. I know John would be interested to hear from anybody else besides us as we go in. And one comment I do want to say, just reiterating to everybody, but now when my wife judges me for buying that extra dome dog or that extra beer at the concessions, I'm just going to say John told me to do it.
Yeah, that's great. I got enough problems at home with mine. Another few thousand pissed off spouses. Yeah, that'll be good.
So here's some feedback for you, John. So from my perspective, just being a fan, is that I was wondering what took you guys so long to opt in. And I know you've answered that question, and you can answer it again here for this audience. But my question was, what took you so long? Because I just felt like it was only a matter of time, whether that was 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. I figured it was going to happen one way or the other. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that was our assessment. We still feel like that's the trend in Division I, and this will continue to evolve over the next several years for sure. But our biggest hangup was roster limits. We still wanted to hold on to opportunity as much as we could. I still believe in that. I think we're up over 40 Division I sport programs that have been cut in the last several years. And I will say that's not, everyone wants to point to the House settlement. That was a trend that started a couple of years ago that's really coming to a head. The House settlement's certainly pushing it now, but I feel good about our 18 sports and where we're at right now. But our biggest hang up, from the start was roster limits. And for us, we would have had to cut, I think it was 52 kids, somewhere in that range. And we just weren't willing to do that. They didn't deserve to be cut. They weren't. You get into that mode, and think about how many, over maybe 360 some Division I programs all having to cut probably 25 minimum, up to there'd be schools cutting over 100 kids. You're talking about thousands of athletes that would lose a Division I opportunity to compete. And so a lot of schools had an issue with that. That was certainly our biggest hangup. And once the settlement came back and Judge Wilkins made her official ruling, the grandfathering in was our last hurdle to clear. And the second it came at 9:00 on a Friday night or something like that, I immediately texted President Gestring, and Sheila responded immediately and agreed that was our last hurdle. So I think it's time for us to go.
Yeah. No, and that's big. You're starting to see it kind of take effect throughout the nation, but being able to hang on to these kids who, like you said, had no reason to be cut in any sense, that's always big.
Yeah. Well, and then the other part of it too is if you don't opt in now, they moved the date to June 30, but initially it was June 15. If you didn't do it by then, and then all of a sudden July 2nd, you say, I want to opt in, or a year from now or whatever, now you have to cut down to that number immediately. And so, this was the way to protect everyone on our campus and everyone coming in. And that's really been our approach this whole time, with dealing with our own financial issues that we had, from day one when I got here to dealing with the settlement. It's, the cuts and things that we made might impact the ability of the level of athlete we might be able to bring in here and recruit, but we're doing everything we can to protect the experience that we're offering all 430 plus of our student athletes. And that continues to be our mission. And we've tightened the belt on some for sure. And but we feel good about that. And protecting our student athletes has been the goal the whole time. And I'm very happy that we were able to do that.
Exactly. And I want to pull this comment up from Ray. It does cover you up there, but as of right now, we haven't heard anything from a couple teams up north, if I'm not mistaken. I think maybe UND's opted in, but the two states I don't think we've heard anything from. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if any of them have officially gone. Okay. Bill may have announced today at UND. I would expect. I don't want to speak for them. I will say every institution's so very different. And you look at, while revenue sharing isn't currently impacted by Title IX, there's already lawsuits challenging the House settlement because of Title IX. So look at it from a scenario of, well, if I have $1 million for my football team in a third-party collective, and now I bring that $1 million over, and all of a sudden they say the rev share has to be met by Title IX standards or anything close. Now you have $1 million gap that you're going to have to solve like that. And so it isn't just, hey, slam dunk. Interestingly enough, with all of this, a Title IX report came for us and we kind of knew what was coming, but shockingly it said we needed to support our men's side a little bit more when it came to scholarship. And that gave us a pretty significant runway to do this. And again, another reason we were able to speed this up. But yeah, I mean, listen, at some point, I imagine all of those schools are going to go, whether it's in the next week or two or year or whatever it is. Again, I think this is where we're all going at some point. But I agree. If they don't, I do think, it gives us a little bit of an advantage. And it is nice for us to not, do something because this is what the other people did. We made the best decision for us, and we feel good about it.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't look. We're definitely it makes us look active and them reacting to it. So yeah, that's great.
Yep. Kind of just says we are us, right? It's we
exactly.
We're running our own game now, and that's a good thing.
Yep. Exactly.
Hey, John, to the Title IX thing, so you mentioned that $1 million pot, like just as an example, so right now, currently as this settlement stands, that $1 million doesn't have to be then met on the women's side. Is that what that lawsuit's for? Is because it doesn't exist currently?
Yeah, the lawsuit that has been filed is actually against the House settlement for the back pay. So it doesn't address anything moving forward. Now, I will say whatever happens in that case is probably a pretty good indicator to us as to where this is going to go. But again, for us, this isn't changing anything in our budget. We roll over into our next fiscal year next week. And so it's not changing anything for us in our budget. It's not changing anything for us with Title IX, but we know we have a nice runway, and we know, come the end of the football season, hopefully next January, we have a pretty good runway. Even if we're still unsure on Title IX, we're not even kind of getting to the line of what would be at risk if it was. Yeah, the direct revenue share, even what the NCAA put out, essentially is up to 75% of your money to football.
Yeah, I've got that the bottom right here in the slide you're looking at. It's 75 to 85 football, 10 to 15 men's basketball, and then 10 to 15 other. So that was that the NCAA's guideline, or where did that come from?
Yeah, it's that's basically probably an average of what Ross Dellinger's seen out there. But yeah, the NCAA put out a recommendation that was pretty similar to that. I think it specifically said 5 to 10% to women's basketball in theirs, and then 5% to everything else. You also find out, it's been fascinating to listen to St. Thomas and Omaha and Denver, and if they're opting in and preparing to do this stuff, you have to decide what sports are dictating that or not. And so, it's interesting to learn how people deal with different things. If you're a non-football school, if you're a hockey first school, if you're a basketball only school, Denver has gymnastics. That's a big deal. Lacrosse, right? So it's really interesting to just hear different perspectives, and you can take a little bit from everything, even if, it's not relevant for your sports, but just you can take a little bit from everyone in the room and kind of help understand what they're doing, how they're doing, why they're doing it. And that can kind of help you in your own thinking too.
Well, and you just said, you kind of strike something to me, because I didn't even think about it, but like you brought up St. Thomas or Drake, those would be really interesting to watch because they're non-scholarship football too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, how does that get juggled in those situations? It's going to be fascinating to watch all of this unfold.
Yeah. And I will reiterate too, just because it's not a revenue sport or one of the top sports that whatever school picks. Again, if we have 10 scholarships in track, right? Let's just use an example of 10 scholarships in men's track, and Lucky decides to on a couple pole vaulters or something, give a full ride plus another $25,000, which would be another scholarship. Well, that kid then in his budget would count against 2 equivalents. So then he'd go down to 8 on one kid, but he could do that for everybody else. So everyone can rev share. We don't necessarily have a specific plan like some of the bigger schools, because we're not worried about getting anywhere near that cap. But I also think it's important for fans to know, this year alone, things that are countable against this $20.5 million, we were probably in the $400,000 range, and we'll be north of 500,000 going into this year. So we've been in the space, and so it's not completely new to us.
Yep. And then I do want to pull this one up, this comment up from Yote fan too for you, John, just to make you feel better about your decision that you're making. Every fan I've interacted with has been very excited and happy with this decision. So, we're just a bunch of guys running a podcast here, but if you care about our opinions, you did it right.
Yeah, no, I do, honestly. And I appreciate it. And I keep reminding people I was a college baseball player, right? And that was at Minnesota, even in the Big Ten. It wasn't like we were a revenue sport like some of the SEC schools are. And then went and played Division II, and then, before getting signed and going on. But so that's always in me, right? Of just opportunity and allowing kids to play and compete. And I was a walk-on to start. And so all of those things matter to me and resonate. And those are always in the back of my mind. And, there are plenty of walk-ons around the country that earn rides and go on to play professional sports and do those things. And if they never had that opportunity, they're never going to have those. And I was one of them, right? So it's easy for me to always keep that in the back of my mind. And I know our coaches feel the same way about it. But I appreciate the comment, and it does matter to me what everybody. I want our fans to be happy. They're more likely to come to games and support us when they're happy about what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, so putting the students first, I want to piggyback on that because we all agree, like Jake said. And secondly, you mentioned the walk-ons, and so I just want to hit that real quick. The PWOs, those don't go away, correct?
Yeah, they won't for us. We just don't have the resources to not do it. Now, again, coaches might decide to spread money out a little bit more because they're not restricted by the number of kids they can give scholarships to, and just within the roster. And so maybe they have the ability and how they budget to give books to a walk-on or whatever. But we will have walk-ons at USD, and I would bet we'll have walk-ons in every sport, maybe even the basketballs. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked if we kept walk-ons and they use some of their scholarships to stack a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, and then just one other comment about Title IX and women's sports. We've had a ton of success, right, at USD over the years in women's sports, and we've always supported women's sports very well, both internally within the university and also as fans. So I just want to call that out too, because I think that's something to be proud of, because you don't see that across the country.
I agree, and in the state of South Dakota, and certainly USD fans support women's sports, I think that makes South Dakota very unique. And I don't want to limit it just to women's basketball, but it's not. But the two things I would say that make South Dakota fans unique are how much they support women's basketball and how much they support track, and not just at USD. Yep. But in general, you go to a high school track meet, and I've never seen so many cars. It seems like every family and extended families there, and we're all basically one arm length away from each other here in the state of South Dakota, anyway. So, but yeah, it's astonishing, and that's been a great impact on women's sports, and for us, obviously having football has helped bring up a lot of sports, because you have to balance the Title IX with that, and so we have a lot of women's sports that are well funded, and we plan to continue that.
Well, yeah, John, and just one comment I would say too. I think you nailed it on the head, talking about you really wanted to protect the student athlete and not having to cut certain players from certain teams or cut down programs. I think initially that was every fan's knee-jerk reaction, kind of panic moment, was, oh my gosh, are we going to start cutting programs? Or we have to start cutting players? And so back to that decision, right, to opt in and do it the way that we've done it. I think a lot of people are really happy with that. And to that point, commend you and your team, because I know it's been a mountain of work that you guys have gone through to make sure that you're digesting it correctly and making all those decisions on behalf of the university. So kudos to you guys on that.
I appreciate that. It's been, it takes a village. I love our team. We have a lot of new people in the building, but we feel like we're really have the people now that we kind of wanted in this process moving forward. And the work, again, it was, for us, the work started the week after I got here. We were not on the trajectory we needed to be financially. And our reliance on the institution was growing, and our ability to meet those needs was declining. It was not a good scenario. And so, but the cuts and changes we have made were related to that, right? And so the fortunate situation for us was all of the work we did as it relates to Title IX, as it relates to our budget, it's all the work you have to do for the house settlement. And so everything we were doing for 12 months, even more than that, positioned us to be able to kind of, again, once the roster limits went, made it a pretty swift decision for us.
Exactly.
I want to ask Jake about the lawsuit with the state of South Dakota versus the NCAA. John, I know you mentioned that in your sit down with John Thayer as well, but again, kudos to you guys for pushing back a little bit, right? And I don't know exactly what impact that had, in terms of the overall house settlement, but just to be able to push back a little bit, I think was awesome to see. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but was that settled outside of court?
Yeah, it was settled outside of court. There were, I think, a couple initial hearings, and so they were in the courtroom in Brookings at least once, maybe twice, and then it was settled. But yeah, I'm incredibly thankful that our state and the leadership in this state stepped up and just said something that at least, hey, this isn't right. And I keep reiterating to people, the terms of the settlement, the back pay settlement, are complete crap, and I'll never agree with them. And the fact that we're paying, on average $360,000 a year, $3.6 million over 10 years as a non-named defendant in that case is ridiculous. And so, but that's also, then this is not an easy lesson for me. And Grant, you worked with me a little bit in a prior life, letting go of the things I can't control is not the easiest pill for me to swallow. But I've gotten a lot better at that over the last 12 to 18 months, especially. And so that's one of those things, right? I mean, the state of South Dakota stepped up and fought it. It absolutely made a little bit of an impact. It certainly brought a lot more information to light, and for us and others. I think we had hoped maybe some others would join, but I'm proud of the state of South Dakota and the leadership for doing that. And I think a lot of people were very grateful that we did. I think, like I said, it at least brought some things to light, and there was certainly some financial assistance here in the short term that'll help us a little bit next year. Nothing, earth shattering or life changing, and certainly nothing just for South Dakota and South Dakota State, right? It was a national deal, but yeah, very grateful for that. It definitely was impactful, but like I said, the final results of it, I mean, life changing, and no, it wasn't. But I was proud of the state for doing it, and that's one of the reasons I love being here.
All right, so I just want to ask Mitch and Grant, and then anybody else watching. Does anybody else have any questions on the house settlement for Jon? Okay, I'll take crickets as a good thing. It sounds like.
I just thought of one, but maybe we covered so much. I can't remember if we covered this already. But cap for the Missouri Valley Football Conference scholarships. You guys decided not to cap that, correct?
Correct. I think both the Missouri Valley Football Conference and the Summit League have really just, with so much, with all of this, there's still a lot of unknown. There's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of things to be determined. So deferring to institutional empowerment and letting people kind of do what's best for them within the resources they have was a pretty universal conversation in the Missouri Valley Football Conference and in the Summit League. And I certainly agree with that and appreciate both conferences going that way. So yeah, no caps, no limits, no mandatory minimums either.
That's awesome.
It's going to be interesting because you're going to see, and you've already seen a little bit, but some conferences are capping, some aren't. Maybe that becomes a competitive advantage at some point down the road as it kind of plays out. And I don't know where it's ultimately going to land, but it's just interesting in the short term, kind of what that could mean for different schools.
I think we all suspect the Autonomy 4 at some point will establish minimums, right, for them. Now, what does that mean? We don't know, but I would say not immediately, but 3 years from now. I wouldn't be shocked if all of a sudden there were minimums, and what that means, I don't know. Right. They can't kick us out of Division I, but do they set it up where if you're not at a $10 million a year in rev share minimum, we won't play you? I don't know what they're going to do, but maybe they'll do that within their own leagues. Right. And maybe that puts some of the A4 schools in jeopardy. But I think those will come, but those are a problem for another day. And those are problems that may not impact us directly, but they might.
Exactly.
Okay, I thought of one more. Sorry, Jake. I heard rumors about this over the last couple of weeks with the whole opt-in, opt-out scenario. Rumors of maybe those big schools not playing you anymore in those pay-for-play games, like the big Wisconsin type games, Iowa State and such, where we collect the check. Was there any, I guess, realness to that, or is those just rumors, or what have you heard or seen on that?
Yeah, I think predominantly rumors. I think those are things even us as ADs are talking about. Is that one that's coming down the pipeline? We've still been able to schedule out, right? Football scheduling, you're scheduling out into 27 through 30 right now, and I mean we might even be into 28 now. But yeah, I mean those are things that could come, but nothing immediate. And I think even within the 10 years. And the autonomy 4 breaking off and things like that. If they do that, they take the settlement with them, right? So you got to remember, everyone non-autonomy 4, we're paying 60% of the settlement. They're only paying 40.
Which is the absolute crap part, by the way, to remind fans. And that was the biggest thing when this first started that we were up in arms about, even as fans, that the little guys were getting absolutely hosed in this deal.
100%. And so yeah, I mean, it's so they would then take that with them, right? So there's a decade from now, who knows what's going to happen, and things might happen, between them. They might decide to take that on, but those are problems for another day.
Exactly. Now, I will say this too, John, just so you're aware. I do know you guys have at least one game scheduled out till 2030 because it's a repeat of the Iowa State game. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I've marked those on the calendar way out. I've had that one in the books for a little bit.
Well, we got Portland State's return games in like 29 or 30 or 31 too, so it's way out there. Yeah, exactly.
Them coming to the SCSC for basketball has already sparked some interesting exchanges between fans as well. I'll definitely love to see it play out. I think that'll probably be the most hostile we've ever seen the SC.
Yeah, yep. We hope a lot of people come that day.
Exactly. I'm for sure getting tickets for that game. I might show up in hazmat suit even. I think that was Grant's idea, and I'm all on board for that one.
Just to be safe, right?
Exactly.
Might be a good game for Sanford Health to sponsor.
I like
perfect.
that.
All right, so I know we don't usually get you on here too often, John, so I want to look ahead just to the 2025 season here and just talk a little bit about it on the football side of things, mostly because I only have one question on my mind. I think it's the Northern Colorado game. The calendar says wear white.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to have a whiteout not just for the fans, but are we going to see a full whiteout with the team and everything?
Yeah, we're committed to making that a pretty universal atmosphere that day. So fans, team, everything. We can't do that in the Valley, but non-conference games we can do that. So yeah, we're planning to do things and match in unison as best we can on the field.
I'm not saying we have to do the full. Do we? Oh, there we. Oh, I see. I'm not saying doing the full Penn State approach with the pom poms and whatnot, but I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're having some fun conversations about that one already for sure, and I think the players and fans will be excited about it for sure.
And then
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and then Ray brought this up, and I've seen it too. John Gruden's gotten a few packages from universities out there. He wants to know if we're going to jump in on that trend.
It was my understanding that we did.
Okay.
So I've been disappointed. Maybe it ended up not going through, but I've been disappointed we haven't seen one yet because I thought we did. So if we haven't sent it yet, I know the plan is to do that. But I'm pretty sure we did, and I've been a little disappointed we haven't seen it yet.
And you know what? I'll say this: if you want, you can just ship that box up here to Sioux Falls. And I'll do a full unboxing. I'm not gonna go as viral as he will, but it'll be much more appreciated.
Yeah, I would imagine he's got a few boxes stacked up that he's got to work through, because that's certainly been a pretty popular trend.
Exactly. All right. So, Mitch, Grant, I'll open it up to you, and then also anybody else that's watching live. Anybody got any other questions that you have for Jon Schemmel here?
Yep, last call.
Say nothing here. Just say appreciate everything you're doing for the university, and know it's not an easy time to navigate. So kudos to you and your team working hard, and really excited to see what comes of it.
Thanks, Grant. And we appreciate you guys too. We love that, we have more people doing stuff like this, and more people we can get talking and supporting USD and talking Coyote sports is a really good thing. And these things are hard to get started and going, and you guys have been persistent, and we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, it's actually funny. We, I think, have the same career path so far with USD. We started right as you started as AD.
Is that right?
I believe so.
January, it says January 24.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
After our first really good season. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the big turnaround season was kind of like the springboard for us. So that was like January. I think we got knocked out of the playoffs, and that was January, like maybe the first week of January, something like that, when we started this.
Yeah, it was an exciting build up, and this one is too. I mean, it's obviously a crazy spring, but Travis and his staff have really done a hell of a job and in recruiting, and I'm excited. Going to look a little different, but we got a lot of familiar faces, a lot of experience, and I know we're confident heading into the fall.
Hey, you mentioned recruiting. Do you have any insight on that, or like I guess on the final say, do you have to approve any of these transfers, or how high does that go as far as bringing all these guys in? Because we were quite active this offseason, especially the spring window.
Yeah, I very intentionally stay out of recruiting. I don't. I mean, if there was an issue or a kid that was questionable, just coming in, we'd sit down and make sure we had someone that we felt like could be successful here at USD, and that's really what it's about with those kids. It's just making sure we're able to put them in a position to be successful in the classroom as well as on the field. So, but most of those things are dealt with through the compliance office, and we have sport administrators for every sport right throughout a department. So and I just don't believe in athletic directors having sport oversight. Other athletic directors do. That's just not something I've ever believed in personally, and so I don't directly. But so they have more insight into who's going in, who's going out. Honestly, I'm usually one of the last people in the department to know. And that's okay. I think it's part of the fun for me, and I do pick up a lot of our news and stuff like that on social media, and I have to remind myself all the time that when high school kids or kids that haven't signed yet or whatever it is are putting stuff on social media, even if they've committed, not to like it or things like that, that's still a violation. So
interesting.
So yeah, I don't get directly involved, but we have a great staff, and I know that stuff's being taken care of. But yeah, Mike and Mariah in compliance deal with a lot of that, and then all the coaches and sport admins are pretty active with it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I want to echo Grant's comments before we head out the door here. Just kudos to you and everybody involved. And I mean, even you're getting some national attention this week with how transparent of an AD you are, and I know you pride yourself on that. And as fans, we couldn't ask for anything more, especially during these last couple of years.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, we don't have anything to hide, and I think the more we can communicate and share, the better. And like I said, I've said all along, I love this place, love Vermilion, love our coaches, our student athletes, staff, certainly our fans, and I feel like that's an important part of our job is to be open and honest and be okay with being wrong every now and then. I think that's probably a hang up for a lot of folks, and that's just not something that keeps me up at night. I'm okay to say, hey, I was wrong here, or correct this. I'd rather be open and honest and aggressively transparent with everything we do.
Yep. Exactly. Well, perfect. I don't have anything else on this. Yeah, we can pull up PJ's comment here. Obviously, the Lombard household is very excited seeing him get signed to the Chiefs. It's so exciting to see.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's the
love
new
it.
thing. Apparently, interview with us on Back to Pack, and you'll go pro.
Yeah,
keep
there
the
you
trend
go.
going.
Well, you're gonna have
Go.
the highest reward, that's for sure. If that happens, when you pick up that reputation, you'll have 430 student athletes banging on your door. So
The more, the merrier. Let's bring them all in. Just have one fun
No doubt.
conference.
I think
Well,
that's one of the best things about this NIL world, right? Like kids want to do this now. We don't need to twist their arm to do an interview. They come to our door asking how they can get involved externally, and they're so good at it. Like I said, I love our student athletes. They're amazing.
And I tell you what, the kids, they've been amazing. It's been so easy to reach out to, whether it was Caleb Stewart last year, or Aiden, or Travis, or Joey. It absolutely was always their response. There was, let me think about it, let me talk to someone and make sure. It was, when can I?
Yeah.
So, USC is a special place. We've reiterated that, I think, every show we've done so far, and I don't see it changing in the near future.
I agree. Love it.
Perfect. Well, I think this is a good place to call it. John, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I know you're probably getting sick of doing these interviews, but it was an absolute blast having you join us.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everything you do, and as always, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.
Yeah. Thank
Go
you, everybody.
Yotes.
Go Yotes.